What's up, everybody? We got a little topic. We got a little something to get off our chest. Let me turn on my TV real quick. All right. Now, here's the deal. People out there, people out there, you don't understand. We need more exclusives in this industry, not less exclusives. Exclusives are not the problem. You wasting your money on shitty games is the problem. Let me tell you something. Me and Doge here, we don't come across a lot of money all the time. We don't just we don't just have money pouring out of our asses like some of you people. And I just want to say this: if people out there that say that they can't afford to have both systems, you're lying to yourself. Just think about having Battlefield 4 and the season's pass for it, Battlefield Hardline and the season's pass for it, Call of Duty Ghosts and the season's pass for it, and Advanced Warfare and the season's pass for it. Now, if you like those two games and you've bought those four games and the season's passes, you could have bought yourself the opposite system that you don't have, and games for it, and a camera for it or a headset for it, and had extra money to spare. That's over $300 right there alone. All right, over $400 really, because the games now are coming to like $100 with the season's pass. And if you say, oh, well, I don't buy those games, those are crappy games. I agree with you, they're crappy games. Okay, fine. Maybe you bought Evolve in the season's pass, and maybe you bought Destiny's season's pass, and maybe you bought, whatever you bought. I'm not saying you need to stop buying games, but let's be honest. A lot of gamers that complain about exclusives and say they can't afford to have both systems, you're buying like pretty much every single game that comes out, and a lot of these games are just being recycled over and over again. So I'm aggravated that people want to have every game on every system rather than have variety and originality and exclusives. Like for example, Xbox won't let indie games come onto the Xbox One that have already been on the PlayStation for a while, and they're starting to make exceptions on that rule, which I think is good because some games, should make it over there. Excuse me. But at the same time, there's a reason why they're doing that. It's because they're trying to get more unique games that are only really on that system. And PlayStation at first, they were signing deals with so many people that are on computer, and then they started to think about it, and now they're slowing those down. They're not just letting any computer game on PS4 that's indie, and that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's great how Microsoft and Sony are getting a little picky now and picking and choosing what they want on their system. And that way there's more variety and the systems feel more worth your time. And that's just how I feel about it. And what do you got to say about it? I mean, I kind of went a little bit ranty on that. I was trying to have a better, well developed point, but it makes me upset how people think exclusives are a bad thing. Like we can get way more into topic about this. This branches out and connects to a lot of other topics. So
Well, first off, like every time I see like in these Facebook groups, and it seems that people probably spend more time in these Facebook groups than gaming. First off, and then second off, I'll see them always posting new games they have. Like I saw someone they got Bloodborne, Battlefield Hardline, and they digitally pre-ordered MLB 15 the show, and that's $180 right there. So that's like almost half of a console. So, and I'm not saying that, those are bad. Well, Battlefield might be a little bit of a bad purchase, but MLB is usually pretty good, and Bloodborne is up for debate on whether you like that type of game or not, but it's at least acceptable in a way. But people are just wasting games on games that are actually shitty, like Battlefield Hardline, Evolve. There's plenty of more examples, and you could just take up on an account where you could just get a completely new system. For example, you could have, let's say you didn't buy so many shitty games, you could have Xbox One, you got PlayStation 4, and you could have some sweet games on your PS4 like Infamous Second Son, and you could have some good games on your Xbox like Dead Rising 3 or Halo Master Chief Collection and stuff like that. But instead, people just buy these shitty multiplat games made by companies like EA and Ubisoft, and
Yeah,
Activision.
they do make the worst ones.
Mainly EA and Ubisoft. Activision just has a few games that are bad, and the rest are just like mediocre.
Right. And mediocre people being okay with mediocre games just disturbs me and bothers me, and people spending so much money on mediocre games just pisses me off because you're supporting things not getting better.
You're
If
just like, it's okay.
if you want to buy like shitty games once in a while, that's fine. But to like just buy every single one that comes out is just and then say that you don't have money to have both systems, so they should put every on both systems. That's just ignorant, you know. We could go into another topic if we already killed that one because I know we agree on that, so I'm not going to get much debate from you on that. But it's an issue. It really is an issue. I can't count how many times people say, "Oh, well, that game should be on PlayStation," or that game coming to Xbox?" And it's like, "No, motherfucker, it's not. Just get the other system." And then if it does come out on both systems and the developer changes their mind halfway, you know what happens most of the time? They do a shittier job making the game because a lot of times the developer wasn't prepared for that extra work of mostly bug fixing multiple versions of a game. And then how about the fact that they have to nuke the graphics on one version of the game? And then companies like Ubisoft now saying, "Oh, well, we don't really think it's fair, to have a better looking version on one copy of the game than the other," which I just think is completely ridiculous. They're sort of like blaming themselves for console wars, I guess. Is that what that is when that happens?
I don't know what the hell that means, but
They're trying to
like back in the day, like if you play Batman and Robin from the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, both those games they were the same company, and they were two different games, and one of them had better graphics than the other. Like, why
right,
can't we have something like that anymore?
but
Like,
they
where it's actually like a truly different experience on a different platform.
right they put the effort to make it a different experience, which was cool. Like when they had Rainbow Six on PC, and it came out on PS1, and they knew there was no way they could do anything similar. But what they created instead was a very fun, different, unique game. It was cool. It was even similar to what they're producing now with Rainbow Six Siege. It's kind of
Which
sad.
looks good.
Yeah, it's sad it took them that much time to get back to that original idea because they made generic games in between, like Vegas. Blech, I don't like those games, but
Vegas is like Call of Duty.
it's very, very generic. I don't like those games at all. It's kind of those games to me are kind of a disgrace to the original series on PC. But the PlayStation One game was not. It was something different. Somebody just created something totally different, and it was
In
like
P-
this
in
is
PC, it was you make your own levels and you go through them in like a tactical order way.
yeah. You planned out like squads of four squads of four. You planned out their every step before you went into battle, and you didn't have to. But this was all everybody did. It was like part of the fun of it. Just like if there was a real life terrorist situation, they would plan out their every step tactically before they walk in. They don't just kick in the door and just do whatever comes to mind, like on Call of Duty and Rainbow Six Vegas. There was actual planning out, and then as you're playing the game, you could take control of a captain from each team or the individual members from each team, and you would have them like all in one room, storm one room. Some people say somebody died or whatever, you have them all stay in that room. You switch to the next room. You were tactically taking points on a huge map, and then you know if you were doing the times where we did bad at it, you were like left with only a few players left and stuff like that. And on PlayStation, there was no way they could have done that because you just couldn't put that many players, that many characters. You couldn't fit that big of maps. So they did something totally different. They just gave you three characters and little maps, but they really thought through and planned out exciting moments and cool things and put in a little bit of randomness to the weapons and stuff like that. It's really great. For people who never heard of it, you should go check out YouTube footage of it or something. Maybe I'll put it into here. But it was a really interesting, great game, and I'm glad that Rainbow Six Siege is taking that opportunity to get similar to that. But
Well, now the new consoles are little more similar to PC, despite being medium power to a little bit under range. So now there's a lot more advantage to take of that. And Rainbow Six Siege does look quite impressive. It's definitely a shooter game I'm excited for. Not the fact that it's probably not going to have necessarily the best multiplayer base, but it's going to be one of those multiplayer games whenever you play it, you be able to tactically and strategically plan out what you do, similar to something like The Last of Us. And even the new Metal Gear Online looks quite impressive as well, with these different games taking more tactical strategy advantages to hand, which is what a lot of older FPS games would kind of do, not something like, Doom or Duke Nukem. That's entirely different, but you know what I'm talking about.
Totally. Yeah. And like just the fact that we're excited for Rainbow Six Siege should show you like we're not being totally anti multi-platform. There's some multi-platforms that are worth your time and worth checking
Or
out.
anti-FPS. There's a few FPS that look promising this year. Not many, of course, but a few.
The genre needs a serious amount of work to make a comeback, in my opinion, but yeah, we're not against anything. And if you like those games that we named, that's fine. And if you feel like you had to buy those and you needed to buy those, that's fine. But I'm not saying everybody fits this description. I'm just saying a lot of people complaining about exclusives. You really, if you're honest with yourself, you could afford the other system. You're just choosing to buy these trendy games instead that even most people that even buy them even complain about them.
Evolve popular for 2 weeks,
Right? Perfect
and it
example.
sucked. Everyone knows it sucked too.
Yeah, and they're just covering up the fact that it was kind of fun at first. You know,
It has some solid gameplay, and it has potential to be a way better game than it actually was, but it just didn't fall in the place. Which is sad because it seemed like a promising game whenever they showed it off, but then, when you actually play it and get down to the bare bones of it, there's not much content there, and the content that is there is kind of really limited in itself. Like, as especially with there's like what only 3 monsters, which I understand some people being like, well, Titanfall only had 3 Titans. Well, that
it
Titanfall has
it be,
very limited content too.
yeah, it becomes more, but you have to pay DLC.
Yeah, if you want, I think if the DLC gives you a good like 4 monsters, right? I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't take my word for it. But I think you get even more monsters than what you got with the game, which that is like completely inexcusable, especially the fact that one of them, the behemoth, is already like finished.
Right. And then there's the one, the Wraith, that they let you play as, but if you didn't pre-order it, I mean, they let you fight against it, but if you didn't pre-order, you don't get to play as it.
Really?
Yeah,
Hmm.
you'd have to buy it later on down the road. And I think they didn't even offer it at first for buying it. But, that's fine. They're just really trying to get those pre-orders, which, again, this is not a podcast about attacking one game. It's just, I think we need to
But that's
even.
just the latest example. Well, that and Battlefield Hardline and Battlefield and EA's retarded ass battle packs.
Right. How much
The
money?
worst.
And then the fact that Destiny costed 90 if you pre-ordered the game and the season's pass, it costed 90 and now they're going to have a whole separate DLC that's not covered in the season's pass and they barely gave any content with the season's pass.
It's $35 of bullshit.
Yeah. And now there's going to be a whole nother thing. So it's like how much money do you spend on games that are mediocre at best before you say, okay, I can afford another console. I do want to try Halo. I do want to try uh, Infamous Second Son. How much money are you willing to spend before you stop and say, maybe I should try the other exclusives on the other system? And it's not just those games. It's like every indie developer gets like harassed pretty much by the gaming community to put their games out on every system, and it's just like kind of pathetic. Like people online just literally harassed them. I just saw one developer sort of showing. He said like I got 500 tweets telling me to go on Xbox or whatever, and he's like I'm only one guy. He's like I'm gonna make my game on PS4 and then we'll see what happens. It's like I don't have to do what you want me to do. I'm a developer. I'm gonna do what I want to do and what I can do. It's a one guy team. Some teams are just gonna make it on Xbox and that's it, and it's never gonna be on PlayStation. And if you think that, oh well, then I don't need to play it, well then it's your loss. You're missing out.
Yeah, like Ori and the Blind Forest, Xbox exclusive, but amazing game.
That game was put together by a team of people on over the internet. It was not. It was a very small group of people, an international collaboration of people from Israel, people from Canada, United States, and Europe, and I believe also Japan. It's a very small group of people that worked together, worked very hard on it. It's an amazing game. It's surprising that they actually did that without being in the same room as each other. Because traditionally, people think you have to be in the same room together to make a good game, but they proved it wrong right there. And so, to
It's
expect,
definitely a contender for Game of the Year. I will be reviewing it soon, as I finally gotten a chance to play it, but
right, and
it's amazing.
you can check my review. It's on the site. So, will be two different opinions right there for you. But this is the fact that people are never gonna experience that just because it's not on PS4. It's just ignorant. It's like, you know, I came into the game industry this generation ready for
Something new and something awesome, but so far all we've gotten is shitty half-assed games that are even worse than last generation's. DLC up the ass, remakes of fucking 2-year-old games, or games that don't even need to be remade, like Devil May Cry 4, what the fuck?
right, and that is more important to people than grabbing both consoles and seeing what's out there. Now, I'm just gonna finish this by saying, we have a lot of passion in this, and we're probably going to speak on this topic again at better length and more clearly in another time. But we just wanted to get the word out, and there's going to be a lot more exclusives coming this year and next year, and a lot of indie ones too. And it's just like if you really are spending the money on these AAA games, you should just stop and think: is it even worth it, really? And maybe you should consider to get both systems and check out some of the more double A or medium quality or indie games. That's just how I feel about it. Maybe you should consider it and stop bitching about games that you're missing out on and having attitudes about games that you're missing out on when you don't have to miss out on them. It's just silly, it's very silly. Anyways, uh just close it out by saying, exclusives matter. Exclusives are a good thing. So, until then, Shotgun Seat Productions, Real Gamer News. Peace.
Peace.